You are now watching the True Mets Talk podcast live stream. We will be going live shortly. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.
Shallow right field, stumbling start for Stewart. That's close to deep left field by Alvarez. He's homered in 4 straight games for the second time in his. He's homered in 4.
What is up, New York Mets fans? Welcome back to the True Mets Talk podcast. It's your boy CP. And this is an impromptu improv live stream that we are doing here on this wonderful Friday night because we have some breaking news. The New York Mets are in agreement with ex-Yankee at this point, Clay Holmes, on a 3-year deal. And let me just tell you right up front, Mets fans, I love everything about this deal for the New York Mets. Salute to everybody that's in the live chat, whether you are here in the live chat or catching the replay. Please do drop those live chat comments as always. Subscribe to the channel, comment your thoughts and opinions. As soon as we were done with our previous live stream, I had to go run some errands, and this signing caught me off guard. Joel Sherman reporting this news coming out of the New York Mets camp this offseason. And the Mets, this was a question mark in terms of what the Mets were going to do to address this starting rotation after the Frankie Montas signing. Wow, Mets fans, I'm not going to lie to you. I love everything about this. The contract, the valuation, and the fit is absolutely phenomenal for this team. Salute to my guy, John from Pure Adrenaline Sports. Salute to Darren, and salute to Rob, who I know was just live over on his channel talking about this signing as well. Appreciate you all being here in the chat. I'm not going to take too much of your time. Again, this is an instant reaction live stream video, and I dropped a video surrounding the Mets potentially targeting Clay Holmes on my channel just about 3 or 4 days ago when there was some initial rumored interest in this potential signing, right? And I stated that I did not think that this was going to be a likely signing given the fact that the Mets had already made their quote-unquote project signing in Frankie Montas, and potentially adding another quote-unquote project to the rotation would carry a big risk. And I also stated way early on in my offseason content that Clay Holmes, the market value for Clay Holmes was 4 years worth over $14 million per year. And if you can do the math, the differentials here, the New York Mets got an absolute steal through and through. This is a 3-year deal with an opt-out after the second year. And I'm still waiting to hear whether it's a player opt-out or a team opt-out. But nonetheless, again, the ability to continue to go down the paths of these short-term deals without having to sacrifice too much on the back end is absolutely phenomenal. So let's get into it, and let's get into the type of pitcher that Clay Holmes is, because again, this is such a sneaky good signing for the New York Mets because you get the best of both worlds. You not only get a potential starter, and we'll talk about that here in just a second as it pertains to the pitch usage and the arsenal that Clay Holmes has, to display. But also, if things do not work out, if this experiment doesn't work out as a starting pitcher for the New York Mets in Clay Holmes, they can always transition him right back into the bullpen where he has had a ton of success over the past couple of seasons in a Yankees uniform, and even before that as a Pittsburgh Pirate before getting traded to the New York Yankees. You see the 2023 and 2024 statistics here for Clay Holmes. He is a workhorse. The past 3 seasons each, he has posted over 63 innings pitched in each of those seasons. 2 of the last 3 seasons, he's been an all-star, including in 2024. 2022 All-Star, 2024 All-Star, and he missed an All-Star campaign in 2023, which was kind of crazy because that could have been considered one of his better years, in his entire career, but definitely, in comparison to the All-Star campaigns that he had in each of those respective other years. But again, as we are mentioning here, you take a look at the strike percentage, the strikeout percentage, and the walk percentage. This is something that sticks out to you because Clay Holmes knows how to punch batters out. He is very effective in doing this with only predominantly 3 pitches. I know a lot of people want to consider him a 4 pitch type pitcher. He does not throw his 4-seam fastball enough, but that is going to change, ladies and gentlemen, when the New York Mets try to work with him, right, in developing that 5th pitch, presumably a changeup, in terms of converting him to a starting pitcher. So be on the lookout for that. You see here the pitch distribution in terms of the sinker, which is his bread and butter. He throws it 56.3% of the time, 97 miles per hour on the sinker. The slider sweeper combination, again, the slider is just a little bit of a tighter breaking sweeper. They're one and the same, but the slider has a little bit of tighter break to it, and he uses that in tandem with one another, and he is very successful with both of those pitches, even more so than his sinker. So I would expect one, if not both, of the slider sweeper combination to go up, but also continuing to utilize and prioritize that sinker. And the 4-seam fastball, again, if he is going to be converted as a starting pitcher, and if he's going to make that transition for the New York Mets, he's going to have to throw that pitch for more than just 0.2% of the time. That usage is going to have to go up because guess what? You all know the types of pitchers that I love the New York Mets to throw out there and get as in terms of signings, trades, and however have you, right? I love velocity. 96, 97, 98. You can work with that at the major league level, especially come playoff time. And that's exactly what the Mets did in Frankie Montas, having a 4-seam fastball being 95 to 96 miles per hour. And this is exactly what they prioritized here with Clay Holmes, is the velocity and the electricity. Because guess what, New York Mets fans? These signings, these continuous signings of these guys that are project level type of guys, they indicate to you how confident this Mets organization, this Mets staff is in their quote unquote pitching lab and their coaching staff, right? This front office, David Stern, Steve Cohen, they know what they have built from the ground up in terms of getting all these characteristics of this organization together to turn project pitchers like Manaea and Severino into successes, and presumably Clay Holmes and Frankie Montas as well. So let's get into a little bit of the comments here. I appreciate everyone being here in the chat. Again, salute to everybody. Salute to my guy, LV. Appreciate you, LV, being here with me. John saying solid move, great deal. Jonathan saying great job, Stearns. I appreciate it. I 100% agree with these sentiments. Trust in Stearns. He has the money to spend now. And again, if you are late in terms of tuning into this live stream, the reason why this is such a steal for the New York Mets is because it's a 3-year deal. You have an opt-out after the 2nd year. So again, you don't have to, in another world scenario, go into that 3rd year, whether it be Clay Holmes doesn't perform well enough or he performs too well, right, to go back onto the open market. But not only that, is that you take a look at what the projections were for him as a reliever strictly going into the free agent market. It was, again, set at 4 years, just under $14 million per season, and the total contract valuation from Spotrac was around $55 million. Take a look at what the Mets actually inked him for, pending a physical, $38 million. This is a David Stearns masterclass, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing more, nothing less. And this is exactly what I'm still trying to figure out, John. I don't think it's been reported just yet, but if it has, maybe during this live stream, whether it's a club or a player option, I'm going to assume it's a player option. I'm just going to assume that. Jonathan with the super chat, appreciate you. Let's address the elephant in the room. Pitching was always an issue, especially a setup man or starters. He achieves both now. Now we need to go get Juan Soto. Now we need to go get Juan Soto. Shout out to Jonathan. Absolutely, you are 100% right. We have signed a former Yankees All-Star, a 2-time former Yankee All-Star in Clay Holmes. Now it's time to get another in Juan Soto, 100%. If you guys missed the Mets Hot Stove Live that Rob and I did quite literally just about an hour and a half ago, please go ahead and watch that on the channel after you're done watching this. We went into the Soto discussion. We went into the pitching discussion. And guess what? Just as luck has it, we did not discuss Mr. Clay Holmes here. So I appreciate everyone being here again. I know it's a little bit of an improv live. It's been a long time since I've done an instant reaction live stream. So again, I'm not in my usual setup. I am at a family member's house right now, but you know what? We do it for the people. We do it for the subscribers, and I definitely appreciate the support. So please continue to smash those thumbs up buttons and subscribe to the channel as well if you like the analysis of this signing. So again, let's get back into the signing and let's take a look at what it means for the New York Mets. Because again, at worst case scenario, you try this experiment of putting Clay Holmes in the rotation, and let's say he does a phenomenal job, and you're able to have a fourth or fifth option in the rotation, right? And perhaps you're even able to kick a guy like Paul Blackburn into a different type of role in terms of potentially being a long man or just depth in general, right? A lot of uncertainty surrounding Paul Blackburn. For those of you all who don't know, I think he is expected to be ready for the start of 2025, but just relying on a pitcher of that age, in that range of ages, and also knowing the back issues that he had to the tail end of this season, it's just not something that you want to rely on at all. So this is great insurance for the rotation, but at the very minimum, if they decide to just make that transition back into a reliever role, now you're talking about a bullpen in the back end that is comprised of a Reed Garrett, Clay Holmes, setting up the likes of Edwin Diaz coming back in a year two scenario after that injury that caused him to miss all of the 2023 season. That is perfect. And this feeds into the scenario that I actually tweeted out just 3 days ago when this whole rumor mill started surrounding the Mets' interest of Clay Holmes. And we even mentioned it on the live today as well. The Mets are stacking arms together, right? It doesn't matter if they are relievers. It doesn't matter if they are starters. They are stacking arms together that can do both and have the flexibility of doing both. And they are just going to plug and play and figure it out during the season. Listen, having guys like a Clay Holmes that can do both and a Jose Butto that can do both is absolutely a tremendous asset that any team in this league would love to have. And there's one more name on this market that has the same capability, and he did it at a very high rate in 2024 in terms of the latter half of the season going into the playoffs and the World Series. And yes, his name is Walker Buehler. If you have three of those guys on your team, now again, what does this mean for the New York Mets? This means that they are still after another pitcher, as you see with the question mark right here. They still need another filler in this rotation, whether it's a guy like Walker Buehler or whether it's another big name free agent via trade, a true ace. Again, I'm going to always advocate for the true ace, whether it's free agency or trade. But again, it's very clear to me what David Stearns is doing here. He is stacking and relying on flexibility, ladies and gentlemen. And that is the most important thing to note here as well. Again, I really like the trend that we've seen from Clay Holmes as well. The trend and just his availability. There's a lot of pitchers on this starting market, right? In this starting market that we have seen in previous years have injury riddled seasons. And I understand that Clay Holmes was a reliever through and through for the New York Yankees over the past 3 seasons when he posted each of the 3 seasons over 60 innings pitched. But again, he is thought of as a durable pitcher, a durable player that can give you longevity. And that is absolutely important when you're going into a 2025 season full of question marks. Absolutely 100%. Shay saying the Yankees didn't re-sign him for a reason. If you're a Yankees fan, of course, I'm sure you're a Mets fan, but Yankees fans are definitely telling themselves this 100%. And listen, I'm not going to, this whole live stream has been about how great Clay Holmes is. I'm not denying that he has had some rough patches in the past couple of seasons, right? Especially as a closer, some of his control issues, just again, the struggles in general. I'm not denying that at all. But again, right? It was a situational kind of struggle, the way that I assess it, in terms of a team that was continuing to put him in that closer role where perhaps maybe he wasn't comfortable in that. And guess what? He doesn't have to be a closer for the New York Mets, and he doesn't even have to be a setup guy to start the season. He's going to be a starting pitcher. The thing that worries me a little bit is just banking on this being successful. But again, that's not a worry because, again, Joel Sherman and everybody else reporting on this signing has already stated that the Mets are going to plan on him being a starter and then just moving him with ease to the bullpen if it gets to that point. John is saying, what about Christian Scott? Christian Scott, perhaps he's not in the equation for 2025. Obviously, he's going to miss most of the season, undergoing that Tommy John surgery on his elbow. When he gets back into the swing of things and starts throwing again and perhaps looks at 2026 as a realistic option of coming back, I would 100% think of him as more of a bullpen guy to start off with for him to ramp up. But again, you stack arms, as is the case with Christian Scott, and presumably any other prospects that come up into this organization that can do both. That can do both. And then you take a look at this fact right here as well from Sanders. I think by summer, Brandon Sproat will be in the rotation. And I 100% agree with you, Sanders. I absolutely share that same sentiment as well. I think Brandon Sproat will be relied on as a starter for the New York Mets sometime by midseason in 2025. Again, the other half of this signing is, what does the outlook look like for the New York Mets in terms of re-signing Sean Manaea? We know that the Oakland Athletics made a pretty hefty offer. We don't know exactly for what it is from the Oakland Athletics that Sean Manaea inevitably turned down, and that's why they had to pivot to Luis Severino. This signing does not take them out of the Sean Manaea sweepstakes, and it doesn't take them out of any other sweepstakes that they want to get themselves into. Again, the Mets saved about $1.5 million on this signing compared to what the projections were. Chump change to Steve Cohen and David Stearns at this point when you take a look at what they're working with. But Sean Manaea's market is going to be very vast. And I'm going to pose the question to you all in the chat. If this rotation remained the same and you put Sean Manaea there as the co-ace alongside Kodai Senga, I know we just had this conversation in the previous live stream. Do you feel comfortable going into the season with that? Yes or no? And I'm sure the consensus is probably going to be no because a lot of people are taking a look at Corbin Burnes. I have to question whether the Mets are truly going to be in on Corbin Burnes or not. But that's a topic for a different day. Do you feel comfortable if Sean Manaea is the last piece of the puzzle for the New York Mets in this rotation? Again, you have two projects, Frankie Montas and Clay Holmes. Personally speaking, I'm just going to tell you right now, Sean Manaea alone wouldn't make me confident in this rotation through and through. But again, Clay Holmes is the beginning piece to that puzzle. The New York Mets are not done. They are not even close to done in terms of signing these types of caliber pitchers that perhaps can do both, or maybe even going out there and trading for an ace like we've been talking about with all of our streams. Jonathan's saying, I want starters that get us to the seventh and solid set up guys. Jonathan, I hear you 100% in terms of wanting starters that go that far. Quite simple. I mean, Corbin Burnes is a guy that can definitely do that for you consistently. Max Fried, more so maybe the sixth inning, especially with some of the injury that he really sustained in 2023, right? I don't think of Max Fried as an injury riddled type of player at all. But again, I think that of the players available, right, maybe Luis Castillo in the trade route and perhaps even a guy like Corbin Burnes is the guy that fits that bill. Garrett Crochet and Max Fried, perhaps not. But I hear you in that fact. But also the fact of the matter is that we have to take a look at what pitching has been across the MLB for these past couple of seasons, even going back into that COVID season, is that pitchers just simply aren't going deep enough into ball games. And that's why the Mets have to continue to prioritize and think about how they're going to set this bullpen up. Now, it's so hard to just project what Clay Holmes is going to actually be for the New York Mets. But when you take a look at the process of an offseason and making smart decisions and getting steals of contracts and stocking up on arms that have vast playoff experience. I mean, Frankie Montas obviously appeared in the playoffs for the Brewers at the wild card level. Clay Holmes, over each of the past couple of seasons, has had tremendous playoff experience, and these are the types of guys that you really want on your team, whether it's in your rotation or whether it's in your bullpen. 100%. John saying, hope they sign Bueller. Lulu saying, yes, I'm presuming to the question of me asking, would you all feel comfortable? To which I would probably disagree with, but I would be a lot more comfortable than I am right now. Obviously, those three question marks are there for a reason, and the Mets quite simply need to address that 100%. Shay saying stinks about losing Severino. Hope Mania is re-signed. Yeah, 100%. Luis Severino. There's a question of does Luis Severino produce a 2.0 of the type of season that he just had? And quite simply, he had a great bounce back season, but he was still right 3.91 ERA. I'm not saying the walks were an issue, but you take a look at the strikeout percentage for Luis Severino, they were down, right? Even compared to his prime years, he had a nice bounce back season, but the strikeout rate was down. Is he going to replicate that at $22+ million a year? I got no idea. And so therefore, I really do think the Mets took the calculated risk in terms of just letting him walk after they stopped feeling, I guess, comfortable at a certain price range. Now, again, buckle up, Mets fans, because there's going to be a lot of competition for Sean Manaea, especially with Montas being gone, with Kikuchi being gone, and now Clay Holmes, because the Mets weren't the only team. Let's not mistake this fact that the Mets weren't the only team that were thinking about having Clay Holmes, and transitioning to him to a starter. This was a variety of teams, from what I understand, that were trying to sort of emulate that process. And the Mets luck out here. And you know what? This is the one thing that I really wanted to say. Obviously, Clay Holmes hasn't started a baseball game since his debut season for the Pirates in 2018. That's a well-known fact, and he only has 15 innings of starting experience in his entire career. Yes, he came up in the Pirates organization as a starter, but the sample size just simply isn't there. But doesn't this say something about the Mets organization, right? In terms of what Montas said today in his introductory press conference about this is a place where you want to be in the Mets organization. This is a team that's hungry. And he was able to witness that being on the losing side of things in that Brewers organization in the wild card round. And that's kind of what drew him to the New York Mets after talking with Luis Severino and Sean Manaea. With Clay Holmes signing this early into the offseason before the winter meetings even start, isn't that kind of indicative and backing the notion of the New York Mets could be progressing and slowly transitioning into a little bit of a destination spot? I mean, do the math. You're starting to hear these stories more and more about players wanting to come to the New York Mets organization. So again, I know we're still trying to transition to superstars, solidified superstars wanting to come to this organization, but this is a really good start. This is a really good start. So I'm really thrilled with this Clay Holmes signing. Again, I had a lot of doubts in terms of if this was actually going to be sought after through and through for the New York Mets, given what the contract projections were. But I guess being a starting pitcher and trying to transition and mold into that role kind of lost Clay Holmes some money. I don't want to make that assumption, but when I take a look at the projections, it's just kind of shocking that he settled for only 38 million. Because honestly, with what he's produced in his career so far, he's definitely worth more than $12.5 million AAV figure, in my humble opinion. Let's see here. Check Mets bat flip. You let me know what that account says. I think a lot of people don't listen to that account. NY committee saying Holmes is an excellent signing. Now let's get Bueller and Burns. Bueller for sure, 100%. Burns, the Mets are going to have to show me something in terms of their seriousness about Corbin Burns. Right now, I have a lot of doubts if they're going to go down that avenue, especially if they've signed these types of guys in Montas and Clay Holmes already. But again, I'm not ever going to go back on what I just said 2 hours ago on the other live stream, is that it's time to go for it all right now. It's time to win now. Rob said the same thing. He said it in a little bit more of an aggressive tone than I did, but it needs to be said. The Mets need to be in a win now mode. And I think that everything that David Stearns has done so far in this early offseason certainly backs that up. The cherries on top, the two cherries on top to that notion would be signing Juan Soto, obviously. That's the obvious. And also going out there and getting that co-ace. But, even given, the uncertainties of not how many or not what the next name will be, who the next name will be, right? That uncertainty, what caliber of a pitcher the next name is going to be, I should say. I think that this, what you see on your screen, is a great starting point. It's a great starting point in terms of flexibility that the New York Mets now have. And let's be honest, the Mets rotation going into last season, especially after the Kodai Senga injury, there wasn't that much flexibility. There really that wasn't that much flexibility. They had to rely on Sevi and Manaya to carry the season. And they had to rely on David Peterson coming back with a vengeance and posting career numbers. They don't have to rely, and it's starting to shape up as if they don't have to rely on just one guy and they can sort of mix and match the rotation however they please. Because guess what? Paul Blackburn, at the end of this rotation, he doesn't have a solidified spot. He is now going to be competing for that spot as soon as the Mets sign another guy. And I've said this time and time again, and I honestly think that Jose Buto does start out in the bullpen, but he could also transition into being a back end of the rotation starter as well. Do you catch my drift here in what I'm saying? The New York Mets have flexibility in terms of any which avenue they want to pursue. Um, John Heyman on WFan, I can't believe it. I know that he was going on the radio with Keith McPherson, and I heard he left that appearance not too happy. There was a couple of arson judge references in there, and I heard that it was ended kind of in a heated spat, I guess. I don't know. I didn't listen to it, so I can't tell you about that. Uh, John saying I have nightmares of walks. Throw a damn strike. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Clay Holmes again. He fixed the walk percentage and the walk rate a little bit, as you can tell, but there's still always room for improvement. And I understand that that thought is always in the backs of our minds, especially as Mets fans, when they finished bottom 10 in walks as a collective pitching unit in 2024. Mm-hmm. Relievers by committee, 100%. 100%. It's certainly looking that way. John saying Bueller or trade for Monty. I've been on record for saying, I'm not interested in Montgomery. The money would have to change drastically. And I understand that the Diamondbacks are willing to take on some of that money and it wouldn't take heavy prospect capital. It has to get to a certain point where I would be willing to take that on. I'm talking about, because I think he's making over 20 million for sure, upwards of 25 million a year, if I'm not mistaken. I think that number would have to come down to at least 12, 13 before I even start thinking about it. I mean, it's not wrong though. Not wrong. Maybe not the guy who writes his checks directly, but there's a long-standing history there of Heyman and Boris and some of the reports that come out of Heyman. But I'm not going to speculate. But yeah, listen, I'm very thrilled with this Clay Holmes signing. Again, 3 years, $38 million. Opt out after year 2. I still need to go and see if this is a player or club opt out. I'm going to assume it's a player opt out, but such a great flexible signing for the New York Mets. We are going to see, right? If Clay Holmes is successful in terms of implementing a fifth pitch or not, because I think that would do him a lot of justice in terms of making this transition easier. But if that changeup is not ready come opening day, right? And come his opening start for the New York Mets as a starter in 2025, you see that four seam usage at 0.2%. Yeah, that's going to have to go all the way up. But again, he throws a four seam for 97, 98 miles per hour. I think that there is a lot to be excited about in terms of the durability of this type of signing. And I think that Clay Holmes is really going to surprise some people. Even if we can't project it out fully, I'm sure Steamer and Zips are going to have a field day in terms of projecting Clay Holmes' numbers as a starter, but I think that we're in for a very big treat, Mets fans. And I will say that in terms of at least the contract structure, this is a win without a doubt for our New York Mets. So that's going to do it for me. Again, a little 30-minute live stream. Again, if there's anything that you want to let me know as soon as this stream is done, please do hit the comment section below and drop those comments. I'll respond. We'll have a conversation. Again, be on the lookout potentially for a video tomorrow. Might do another live stream tomorrow on a Soto watch. We'll see if I do it myself or I'll see if I can hop on with Rob, depending on time and scheduling. But please, Mets fans, baseball fans in general, Yankees fans, if you came in here for a little bit of a therapy session, I'm sorry I couldn't provide that. I do like this signing a lot, and I think that, Clay Holmes kind of got away from you all. I'm not sure how feasible and how much interest the Yankees had in bringing him back, but again, please do hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Talking Mets baseball all the time. You never know when I'm going to do a live stream just like this one, so please do hit the notifications button to get notified when I do go live. And as always, I appreciate you all. Make sure you follow me over on X and Instagram, because if you don't hear from me on YouTube with an instant reaction video, you will be hearing from me over there in terms of getting my latest thoughts and opinions. So a lot more moves to be had, Mets fans. Again, just as the Montas signing, this is only the beginning, but it's a damn good puzzle piece in what should be a very exciting offseason. The Soto watch continues throughout this entire weekend. Again, one former Yankee all-star down, another one left to get in Juan Soto. Let's go Mets. Peace out.
Thank you for watching the True Mets Talk podcast. Make sure you're tapping on that notifications button and checking out all the latest